She's a goddess of wisdom, of poetry, of the forge, a goddess of healing, a goddess who teaches us how to cry and mourn and let our sorrows forth and fill the world. Her four animals cry out at the sight of injustice, calling people to come and lend their aid, to stand up for the oppressed. Of course, we're talking about Brigid as we walk together down Creation's path. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie, and I'm Christopagan Druid and priest of Brigid.
Hello, everyone. My name's Brian. I'm a Christopagan Druid and sous chef to the dog down, or as Brigid sometimes refers to me as, one of his.
We couldn't do a Divine Feminine Week without talking about my beloved Brigid. And to really give all of the caveats that I don't see people giving when they talk about her work. While I love Brigid with all of my heart, this is not the kind of goddess you want to start working with if you are not ready to get stuff done. But before we get into all that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever app you're listening to us on. We do 5 original Christopagan and Druid episodes every Monday through Friday, and you don't want to miss anything. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. All right, let's just get into it now, shall we? I don't even know where to start with Brigid.
I think the best place to start is when anyone thinks about female power and female empowerment, Brigid is really that point. She is very much just do it. Just do it. Female power, empowerment, energy right there.
Look, I don't want anybody to think that I am contradicting anybody who talks about Brigid as a very loving goddess, as a very sweet goddess, and somebody who does have great care and concern for the people of this world. I am not contradicting them at all. I would just say, as somebody who does contract work for her, who took their priesthood vows to her with many lines to the contract, if you will, of what I will be doing and what I am expected to do. She's a get it done kind of person and a very get it done kind of spirit. For the sake of this conversation, I believe in a multitude of Brigids that are all one Brigid, but they're all separate at the same time. We can talk about the 3 Brigids, one Brigid. We can talk about the triune goddess Brigid. We can talk about Saint Brigid. And to me, they are all aspects of the same story. So if I start talking about a story from Saint Brigid or the goddess Brigid, to me, they're all flowing together into one narrative. Just bear that in mind.
I think that's really helpful for those wanting to get into Brigid. It is important to make sure you're learning correctly, but I would also point out that it's okay to allow all of that to be one Brigid. I think it helps to get into Brigid more because they all still have a lot of those same themes running through their stories and same meanings.
And I think they're all different experiences of Brigid. I have definitely experienced the Brigid who is triune, the Brigid who is 3, the Brigid who is 1. And while I do believe there was a historical Saint Brigid, I also believe that she was very connected to the goddess. And a lot of the stories of these 2 people were intertwined and intermixed in a way that it is difficult for us to split one from the other. Brigid is all about new beginnings, possibilities, and change. She is the most liminal of liminal goddesses. In the stories of Saint Brigid, she was born at dawn, right in the wee hours before night and day. As her mother stepped through the threshold, she stopped and put her hands on either side of the door, and Brigid was born literally right in the door. She is very much in these in-between spaces. And you can see her care and concern in all of the domains she's attached to. She is the protectress of all domestic animals, and very much in the same way that you would think of St. Francis. That is Brigid. Many of the miracles of St. Brigid are her turning water into beer, water into milk, so that people can make butter, which I think is a great and glorious miracle in and of itself. Everyone should have butter. She once turned an entire well into beer because she got to the town and they had no beer. So she prayed over the well and turned the water into beer so the entire town would have some.
Let's pause for a minute, as at least for the Americans in the audience, is our tradition. We kind of landed because we were out of beer and needed more beer. So that should be mad respect. for anyone who could be like, hey, beer.
And you have to remember,
You
beer
know?
was a staple part of the diet. The kind of beer we're talking about here
Yeah.
is the kind of beer that you chew on for a little bit. That's where most of your
It's,
calories are coming from.
it's the kind of beer that falls into the food category,
Yeah.
like soup would be in the food category.
It's the kind of beer that would be very often poured over your bread and
Yeah.
maybe a few vegetables. And if you're lucky, a little bit of meat. It's a very hearty, like it is the sustenance of life that she is. I think a lot of people get confused by Brigid because we have gotten used to the overclassification of Greek gods and Roman gods. People really want to put deities into these boxes because while the Greeks and Romans often did, like when you actually dig into the lore, many of these deities were involved with far more than we're led to believe. If you look at all the things Hermes was associated with, everything from healing to sending messages to leading souls into the afterlife to taking care of merchants, helping people make fortunes, find luck. There's so much there. He often gets simplified into the messenger of the gods. And people want to do that with every pantheon on earth. The Irish pantheon, more than any other, makes that impossible because there is, with very few exceptions, Dian Kek maybe is the god of healing, of medicine. Like that's what he does, but beyond him, they usually are doing a lot of different things and are spread out over a lot of different domains.
To take a dip down a little rabbit hole there for a minute, it's the unholy Hellenistic plot child, Attilian categorization, and Platonic idealism, giving the unholy child of all these deities to be categorized into ideal grouping and all quote unquote logically put away neatly. And that's not like, and I love that when you get into Celtic spirituality, you run into, oh, no, that's not life. Break yourself free of the Aristotelian and Platonic thought structures.
In the work that I've done with and for Brigid, there's a lot of care and concern that goes into it, but it is work. She really is going to have your best interest at heart. Yes, maybe the best interest at heart for your community or whoever you are going to be working for or with. But it's not, I get frustrated because I see a lot of people trying to put her into this like mother goddess, like she just cares for all of us and takes care of all of us. And yeah, if you're a dog, a cat, a cow, or a chicken or a goat, maybe
she definitely has more of that mom energy of, you have your list of to-dos for today. It is now 8:30. You've taken too long to get working on that list.
What? You have stuff to do.
We now just wasted 5 more minutes talking about the list. You could have had more things done. And I think that can be one of the struggles that people run into when getting into Brigid, is that she gets things done and she pushes those that she works with when building that relationship with her.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of her because I see a lot of stuff that tries to condense her down into, she's the goddess of poetry and bards. Yes, that is true. Brigid loves a good story and will help inspire a good story, but she's also the goddess of judgment and justice, which goes hand in hand with being a bard and a storyteller. And
like when I think about that, to make a modern day reference, I think you're almost better off thinking like Kendrick Lamar, poet and bard and storyteller, but it's that kind of almost tough love and a lot of work.
Yeah.
That dude works really hard.
And it's going to be deep and political, and it's going to be about change and making things better. A lot of justice work with her. When I talked about Brigid of the Cowless, this is one of my favorite titles of hers. And what that means is, of the people that are so poor, they don't even have a cow. They don't have anything. She's the one who speaks and advocates for that. That is very much the Brigid that I know. The Brigid that I know would be out protesting in the streets right now with everyone else. That is the Brigid that I've come to know, both personally through the work that I've done with her, but also just through the stories.
I think of the stories of the judge that was being very misogynistic and the boils.
She cursed him to have painful boils on his face until he set the case right. He had to repent and apologize for what he had done. And only then was the curse lifted and the boils were allowed to go away. she's very proactive. And I'm not saying everyone has that problem, but
I kind of giggle. I think of a more recent story. I'm not going to name names in this one because I don't know if I have permission, but we have somebody in our lives recently that was interested in thinking about maybe they should look at building a relationship with Brigid before they even knew what had happened. Like before even the next day, all this stuff was suddenly in motion in their life. They found themselves suddenly like, oh my. And they contacted us like, okay, what do we do about this? My first response was just laugh because I'm just like,
well,
we were just talking like 2 hours ago about Bridget being more involved in your life and she gets things done. Like,
I can think of 4 or 5 people that I've had that conversation with in the
yeah.
past.
And not just that one's just fresh on the mind.
It's also because as somebody who very openly refers themselves as a priest of Brigid, because that is what I am. I have duties that I perform for her and for the community. The priest works for and with the deity and for and with the community. You have 2 sets of duties. A lot of priests forget that. People who are interested in her because they've heard some of her stories, seen some of her iconography, or encountered various books or vlogs that mention her will reach out. And I'm always very careful to warn people. And it's not because she's scary or I don't think people should work with her. It's just, this isn't a devotion for people who are looking for something light. My call to Brigid came unbidden. And I've talked about this before. You can read the full story of it was in Scry.com, where I wrote out the full story of how I ended up getting involved with her. Suffice to say, I was not looking for this relationship and it came into my life. I don't regret, and I don't want anybody to think that I regret any of the decisions that got me to where I am now. It came with realizing very early on, like, if I'm going to continue with this, it's going to entail a lot of work. You can see it in this podcast. This is part of the works that I do for Brigid. You can see it in the stuff I write for CreationsPaths.com and wisdomscry.com and fractalkinship.com. Those are all part of the work that I am doing with and for her. That's not even getting into any of my fiction work, because she has a hand in all of that too, because of the whole bard and poetry and storytelling aspects of it all. I think people need to realize this isn't just a relationship that you're going to light a candle to her ever so often. She will come to you with projects. You need to have the wherewithal to realize that you can say no, but you should weigh whether or not it's possible for you to say yes. The first work I did with Brigid was to make an oracle deck that I did not feel it was possible for me to make. Like, it was very much there's no way I can make an entire oracle deck in a month. And she kept showing up in my dreams, just showing me the cards. Here are the cards, here's what they look like. You need to make them. And I don't make work that quickly, but it was a trial run of our working relationship with each other. And lo and behold, I made the deck. I have it right over there. It felt impossible in the doing, and it feels impossible now. Like, honestly,
even looking back,
like, I don't even understand how it got done in the time frame that it got done in, because I was taking classes, I was doing a whole bunch of things at the time. But that's the thing. She knew I was capable of doing it and knew that she would bring that inspiration to ensure it got done.
That's one of the things I find very interesting in working with Brigid. When you agree to do these projects with her, as Goddess of the Forge, if you aren't fit enough for it, she will help forge you to get you there as well. She'll check you in the forge for a little bit and work you over and pull you back out and see if you're tempered enough.
We did an entire episode about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting process to go through as well. It's something that gets repeated, but also, as Charlie said, you can agree or not agree to work with her. There's no judgment on her behalf with that either. She's just, okay, if you don't, okay, and goes on.
But don't be surprised when you see somebody else do it.
Yeah, you should go to somebody else and go, hey, here's the thing. Also, when you're thinking no, like Charlie said, you should think of how you can say yes. If you're the type of person who likes to make excuses, you have to be careful, because that's how you find yourself being asked again. And because some people like to go, oh, I got to do these chores. I changed tires on the car. And you're going to walk out one day and find out some mechanic just had extra tires and decided to do the job for you. These excuses will vanish really fast. Or you're going to get up and just have a bee in your bonnet and find yourself changing your own tires and having all this energy to do it. And then when you get done and you're all tired and going, why did I even do that? And you're just like, oh, wait.
Or you're
Yeah,
going to be like, I don't
anymore.
have the energy to do that. And you find yourself waking up at 6 a.m. with the thought in your head, and you find yourself by 10 a.m. having done most of the work for that. And now it's time to start your regular work day. Not that's
God,
ever happened to me, especially
never.
not
Yeah.
recently, over and over
Yeah.
again. She is all about finding the way. If I had to relate her to any classical Greek idea, it's the most misunderstood passage of Stoic literature. The obstacle is the way. And what that means, if you're never heard that rightly explained, is every time you find something that's blocking the passage, it's telling you exactly how to get to your destination. Depending on the nature of the blockage, you figure out very quickly, oh, I need to go around, or I need to go through, or oh, the obstacles we encounter show us the way forward. They're not hindrances, they're guideposts, and we should read
My,
them as such.
my favorite way forward is, oh, I need to give it 5 minutes and find out that something was happening really bad on the other side 5 minutes before I went through. And I'm glad I waited.
But yeah, she really is that kind of spirit to work with. And I hope I haven't frightened anybody off who felt an interesting call toward her in her work. I don't find her to be angry or wrathful. I don't find those
No.
aspects to really be a part of her.
Oh,
I have felt disappointment. Okay. But that's usually when I don't have the energy for that. There's no time for me to put that on my plate. And it's more just like, okay, it kind of stings a little bit, but you get to move on from that really quickly.
even in my experiences, like at times I've been dismissed, it was more of just, I was bringing a lot of nonsense into the picture. And it's more like, you think of any mother when a child's being a little obnoxious, they're like, just go play in the other room. It's still all love. There's no malice or anything in there. It's just, I got things to do and you can go play over there.
I highly recommend her. She is a very interesting spirit to work with. I don't think that you have to initially sign a contract with her. You can reach out and ask for her blessing, ask for her help. I think you can ask for her aid. I think that once you start working for her, though, you need to start listening for the bellow of the four beasts. They will let you know where you can take action to help, where someone is in trouble or some injustice is being done. I think that she's very open to working with whoever wants to work with her, but you really need to make sure that you're willing to work with her. And if you have any doubts, put a time limit on the contracts that you make with her.
And just think, all that female empowerment,
So much.
female empowerment. Yep.
So let me know what you think. What are your thoughts about Brigid? So if you've been listening to this podcast for any period of time, you've heard quite a bit about her, but have you had any experiences with her? Let us know down in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, or CreationsPaths.com, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they don't notify us, so we won't know. But you can leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to CreationsPaths.com, click on chat, and you can leave a message there, and we will see it, and we will be able to get back to you. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars, you can pass our way. We offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support us on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both, and you can support us using the Cash App hashtag CreationsPaths. Thank you to everybody who does that. We are ever so grateful. Thank you so much. You all really do help us keep the lights on, keep a roof over our head, and food on our table. If we've ever said anything that's helped you out, please share it with others. That helps us out more than you know. As we are heading out today, oh, blessed Brigid, help us in all that we do to find the fire, to give us the courage and the strength to go forward, to forge our hearts into the steel that we need to weather the storms that we face in our lives, and to have the eye of justice and judgment to know when we need to speak the words to power and to bring it to its knees. Help us in all that we do to bring justice, care, and hospitality to all who are in need.
Amen.